Colleagues, I'd like to make a statement about the recent events in Charlottesville, Virginia. And as someone who loves this country very much and who is very proud of my heritage, I often think about our political ancestors, the men and women who stood tall in America's darkest hours, the brave men and women who fought and died in the revolution that created this incredible nation, those who gave their lives to end the institution of slavery in the Civil War that threatened to tear us apart, those who fought fascism in World War II, those who struggled for so long and sacrificed so much for equality and for full rights of citizenship, the right to vote, the right to drink out of a water fountain or sit on a bus or in a diner. Those Americans forced to live separate and unequal lives because of the color of their skin, the God they worshiped, or the person they loved. All of the Americans who gave up so much to help this country fulfill its promise. And I wonder if I would have had the courage, the same courage they had, the integrity and the commitment. What would I have done in their shoes? What would they do in mine? How can I honor their legacy? How can we collectively honor their legacy? Today, in this America, I see a rising tide of hate and intolerance, threatening to once again tear us apart. And I believe future generations will look back on this moment in time as a turning point, because how we choose to respond will shape the character of this nation and this great state for years to come. Colleagues, I know each of you. First and foremost, before party or ideology, I know you to be good, decent human beings, patriotic Americans who truly believe in the promise of our great nation. We may disagree fiercely on how best to fulfill that promise, but we all share a set of fundamental values that are bigger than any one man or party, that supersede race, creed, and self-interest. And I have to believe that each of us would stand up and speak out against fascism, white supremacy, and hate if it threatened our own community. Not because of any great individual moral strength on our part, but because of our values as Americans. Because we love this country and we want it to be the best it can be. And that means that the cowardly attack that claimed Heather Heyer's life in Charlottesville was an attack on all of us, regardless of political party. I know we all felt the pain. It was an attack on America and on our values, the promise that we strive to achieve. And the ideology that fueled that attack is a cancer on our nation. The nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men and women are created equal. So it's incumbent on all of us as Americans to remember our history and not repeat our past sins. We have to come together to heal, to move forward, and to hold ourselves to a much higher standard. And as elected officials, as the 40 senators on this floor today, it falls on us all to lead. In that spirit, I've asked Senator Jackson, as chair of the Joint Legislative Committee on Emergency Management, to hold a series of public hearings to ensure that California is adequately prepared for future Nazi rallies, including calling on our officials at our public universities and California Highway Patrol to testify to discuss our preparedness or perhaps lack thereof. And what, if any, legislative action needs to happen to protect free speech and public safety. We've already seen this repugnant ideology rear its ugly head on our own college campuses here in our own great state of California, even right here at our great state capitol. In fact, after last year's fiasco where a melee occurred on these Capitol grounds, CHP, the California Highway Patrol, at my request, has fully reviewed what transpired and has made a number of arrests and completed an assessment. And it would be timely for them, along with the University of California, as well as the California State University systems, to update us on their plans to protect free speech, as well as preserve public safety. I've also asked Senator Nancy Skinner, our chair of the Public Safety Committee, as well as Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, the chair of our Judiciary Committee, to hold hearings investigating the rise of white supremacy and fascist organizations in this state, including their recruiting techniques and how they are funded. The fact is that the radical right-wing terrorism is on the rise in our great country. And since 2008, terrorist attacks on the U.S. soil carried out by right-wing extremist groups, including white supremacists, outnumber those by Islamic jihadists by 2 to 1. And that is a statistical fact. Since 2001, we've seen an average of 300 such attacks each year. Hate crimes and biases have also spiked. Research shows crimes in 9 of America's biggest cities have risen by 20% since 2016. And in 2017, this year, the Southern Poverty Law Center recorded over 900 separate hate crimes, with countless more since. So I'll be asking this committee to make recommendations to all of us, Democrats and Republicans, in a bipartisan fashion, on how to combat the rise of these hate organizations. These issues cut to the heart of our society, and our response will show what kind of nation we want to be. So we must act swiftly and unequivocally. I want to thank my colleagues in a bipartisan spirit for taking the time to listen to me. I know this really struck at all of us, Democrats and Republicans alike, what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. We don't want it to repeat itself again in our great state of California, or for that matter, anywhere else. I want to thank you very much, and I would like for a unanimous consent to move to adjournment of memory. Colleagues, I rise to adjourn in the memory of 3 brave Americans who passed away tragically in Charlottesville, Virginia, earlier this month. Heather Heyer was just 32 years old. She was murdered by a white supremacist in her own city, in America, in 2017. I never knew, no, we did not know Ms. Heyer, but I can't say that I know much about who she was either. But I do know that she stood up for the best of America. She believed in the promise of America, and she showed it with her presence that day in Charlottesville, not with words on a screen, but with her mind, body, and soul. She was exercising her constitutional rights, peacefully protesting a gathering of white supremacists and neo-Nazis and the KKK and their hateful ideology. And she paid the ultimate sacrifice because she chose to stand up for what's right, for fundamental American beliefs. On that very same day, Lieutenant Jay Cullen and Trooper Berkey Bates, both pilots with the Virginia State Police, were killed in a helicopter accident while monitoring the white supremacist and neo-Nazi rally that Ms. Heyer was protesting when she died. Officers Cullen and Bates lost their lives in the line of duty. They served their state and their community with incredible distinction. Both men were described by friends and family as being loving fathers, husbands, thoughtful, and very, very kind. They wore the uniform with great pride. Colleagues of each man recall their profound sense of duty and the joy they took in protecting and serving the people of Virginia. And in fact, Lieutenant Cullen was working on his day off because, by all accounts, that's the type of man and the officer that he was. Trooper Bates was known for his sense of humor and his love of ice hockey. In his spare time, he coached a youth hockey team. They honor us with their incredible sacrifice to this great country. Ms. Heyer is survived by her mother, Susan, and her father, Mark. Lieutenant Cullen is survived by his wife, Karen, and his 2 sons, Ryan and Max. Trooper Bates is survived by his wife, Amanda, and his son, Deacon, and his daughter, Kaylee. With that, colleagues, please join me in remembering Heather Heyer, Lieutenant Jay Cullen, and Trooper Berkey Bates of Charlottesville, Virginia. May they all rest in peace. They may be gone, but they're in fact not forgotten.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. And of course, I know everyone here shares in that grief and sends condolences to their family as well.